You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
Hey, my lovelies. How are you? I hope you're doing well and having a great week. Welcome back to the Get Lean and Lit with Lindy podcast. We are the podcast for women over 40 who want to build muscle, lose fat, improve their health overall, and do it without having to drink celery juice every day and crying themselves to sleep, basically. I'm your host, Lindy. Thanks for joining me today. Today is an interesting topic. We're going to talk about a little sneaky troublemaker that's called visceral fat. It's going to be interesting. Now, before you tune me out and think, oh, great, not another belly fat episode, just stay with me because visceral fat isn't just about how your jeans fit. It's about what's happening underneath the jeans. And frankly, it's one of the most important health topics for women over 40 that we all need to have a great understanding of. So grab your tea or your water bottle, lace up your walking shoes, or get your basket of laundry that you need to fold, and let's get started and dive into this topic. So you guys already know that I like to start with the basics. So let's start with a definition of visceral fat. What is visceral fat? Most people think fat is fat. All fat is the same, and it's really not. There are actually two main types of body fat that we're going to be talking about today. The first fat is called subcutaneous fat, and that's really the fat that's found directly under your skin. It's a fat that you can pinch when you pinch like your waist, your side. You guys remember the old saying? I'm kind of dating myself from when I was a little kid, but there used to be a saying that would ask you, can you pinch an inch? To indicate if you had too much body fat, especially in your tummy area. Do you guys remember that or no? Maybe it's just me. But subcutaneous fat is the fat that can be found on your hips, your thighs, your arms, your stomach. So it's basically fat that you can pinch and you can kind of feel and see. But the next type of fat is called visceral fat. And that's what really the topic of today is visceral fat. Visceral, V-I-S-C-E-R-A-L, fat. So visceral fat lives deep inside your abdomen, inside of it. You can't see it, you can't touch it. It wraps around your organs like your liver, your pancreas, and your intestines. So you can't necessarily see the visceral fat. You can't pinch it. But it can absolutely affect your health if you have too much of it. So we all have some visceral fat. You just have to have visceral fat because it's necessary to cushion your organs. We just don't want to have too much of it. So look at it like this analogy. I was trying to think of a way to kind of explain exactly what I'm talking about with visceral fat. So you can think of subcutaneous fat as a neighbor who keeps to themselves, who minds their business. But you can think of visceral fat as a neighbor who blasts music at 2:00 in the morning. They let their dog tear up your lawn. They start drama in the neighborhood Facebook group. I mean, it's extremely disruptive. It's like a significant problem if you have too much. So, I had to deep dive into the research, put my research hat on, into why visceral fat is so different than subcutaneous fat. So, the reality is, visceral fat isn't just sitting there passively, it's not just being fat, it's actually biologically active material in your body. So, it releases inflammatory substances into your body. It's a little scary, actually. It kind of has a life of its own when it's too much. So, too much visceral fat has been associated with insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, which I did a podcast on last week, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, and even fatty liver disease. So, this is why you can see two women who may weigh exactly the same amount but have very different health profiles. So, body composition really matters, is what I'm trying to let you guys know. Where fat is stored absolutely matters. So, we all know women who walk religiously. That is like their thing. That's their way that they exercise, which is good. I may be talking about you, I don't know, but I'm just saying, people that just walk. It's their only mode of exercise. No strength training, no Pilates, no nothing else, just walking. So please know that you can walk every day. You can rarely miss a day, and you can eat reasonably well. You can even wear a size small or medium clothes. Most people may look at you and think you're healthy based on appearances alone. However, what's really needed at this stage of life to get the whole story is a body composition scan, like a DEXA scan. So I used to get these once a year when I lived in Minnesota. When we commuted and changed to living in New Jersey, I kind of stopped doing it because I didn't have a place to go, and stuff took over. But I had my first scan in a while last week, and I'm so happy I did because I learned so much about my current muscle weight, my body fat percent, my bone health, etc. And I would encourage everyone to get a baseline DEXA scan and get them at least annually as a follow-up once you do have your baseline, because you'll be able to tell how your workouts are working for you, if you're losing fat, if you're gaining muscle, those sorts of things. It's really valuable information. But despite appearance on the outside, the results often show higher visceral fat than expected as we age. So that's why it's so important to really understand what's going on internally. So sometimes what happens is that over the years, you may slowly lose muscle and slowly gain abdominal fat. The scale might not even change. It might barely change, but your composition of your body has changed. So that's why I tell women all the time, the scale tells you your weight, but it does not tell you the whole story. So my advice is to get a scan and know exactly what's going on internally. Because women over 40 are really more vulnerable to higher levels of visceral fat. So it is what it is. It's not that I'm putting a judgment on it, but that's where the trend goes as we get older. Because our hormones really go bananas as we age. We all kind of know that at this point. So let's talk hormones real quick. Estrogen helps regulate where women store fat. As estrogen declines during perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause, many women notice weight shifting toward the abdomen. You might not even gain a huge amount of weight, pounds-wise. You simply gain weight differently and is stored in different places. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anybody, but that's a pretty common thing. So one day you're carrying weight in your hips, and the next day you're wondering when your stomach became a storage unit. Like that's how quickly things can change. But let's be clear, you're not imagining that these things are happening. There are definitely biological reasons that they happen. So let's go into a story time. You guys know I love that part of the podcast. So I have a friend, I'm going to call her Diane. She told me after listening to my podcast, I swear I'm eating exactly the way I ate 10 years ago. That was her quote. And she probably was. I mean, most of us are. The problem was her body wasn't the same. She had lost muscle. Her activity outside the gym had really dropped off. Her sleep had gotten worse. Her stress levels were higher. And her calorie needs were lower than before they before she started aging to the point where she is. It all happens really slowly. It's not something that, you can kind of detect day by day, week by week. It happens pretty slowly. And to be clear, nothing super dramatic happened. It was just life. She was living her life. But once she started focusing on strength training 2 to 3 times a week, making sure she got enough protein, making sure she protected her sleep, her waist measurement began shrinking. So the scale slowly started moving down, and all of her health markers at her doctor's appointment, her annual doctor's appointment, improved dramatically. So she didn't do anything extreme. She just focused on the basics, which I always evangelize. That's period. Focus on the basics. So how do you know if you have too much visceral fat? Well, like I said before, the gold standard is really getting a DEXA scan, because that really breaks everything down for you. But, well, let me say that. The gold standard is a DEXA scan. They're relatively inexpensive, they're painless, and they're very, very informative. But there are simpler clues that you can hone in on as well that won't cost you any money and you don't have to go anywhere. One is waist circumference. For women, increasing waist size often signals increasing abdominal fat. Another clue is health markers. If you go and get your blood drawn and it says that you're in the pre-diabetic range, or you have elevated triglycerides or high blood pressure, these all can be associated with excess visceral fat, and there are issues that need to be handled. So let's talk about really what doesn't work in terms of getting rid of visceral fat. So I'm going to clear up a couple of myths here. So you can't spot reduce visceral fat. You can't just do crunches. You can't wear a waist trainer, and detox teas ain't gonna do nothing for you. Sorry to let you know. Some people have said rubbing essential oils on your stomach while manifesting shrinkage could work. No, none of that stuff works. Because if they did, we'd all be walking around with 6 packs, all of us. So just throw that stuff out the window. So what actually works? Let's talk about real world solutions, because that's what I like to do. I like to keep it real, keep it candid, let you guys know what's up. So I have a list of the top 5 things that you can focus on to decrease your visceral fat. Number 1, and you guys, anybody that has listened to my podcast, y'all can probably name number 1. Number 1, build and preserve muscle. Please, this is huge. Muscle improves insulin sensitivity. Muscle helps you maintain a healthier metabolism. Muscle is your BFF. It's your best friend. It's your girl. It's your partner. Okay. So you have to lift weights. You have to use resistance bands. Somehow you have to challenge your muscles. You can even use your own body weight, but you have to know how to put a program together so that you are practicing progressive resistance. Do not be afraid of strength training. You are not going to accidentally wake up and look like a bodybuilder. Trust me. Trust and believe that. You're not going to accidentally wake up like that. It's a lot of work to get that type of body. We're talking about just building and maintaining muscle. That is number 1. Number 2, you got to prioritize your protein. Protein supports muscle retention during a fat loss phase. So if you need to drop pounds, if you're trying to cut your weight, you have to work on building your muscles up, because that speeds up your metabolism. And when you are cutting calories, the more protein you eat, the less hungry you're going to be in a calorie deficit. That's just how it works. So many women over 40 are dramatically under eating protein. I'm talking about dramatically. So you should aim to include protein at every single meal that you take. You should shoot for a daily protein target of 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So for example, if you want to weigh 130 pounds, you should eat 130 grams of protein every day, period. Now that's the only simple way that I can break it down for you guys. It's really simple. 1 gram of protein per gram of ideal body weight. Okay. Number 3, walk more. Walking is completely underrated. I have a whole podcast on walking too, but walking is completely underrated. So a brisk daily walk can help improve your blood sugar regulation and your overall calorie expenditure. So sometimes the boring answer is the most effective answer, because sometimes walking, you're like, really, what is walking doing for me? Walking is doing so much for you, especially if you do it after you eat, like within the 15-minute time window after you eat, walk for 15 minutes. That is like gold. It's easy enough to do. It's not taxing on you. It's not raising your cortisol, but it's very effective at tamping down your blood glucose. Number 4, sleep. Poor sleep increases your hunger hormones and it worsens your insulin resistance. So you have to protect your sleep at all costs. That is critical. And number 5 is managing stress. In this world that we live in, come on now, we're all stressed out pretty much. There's so much going on right now. I don't even want to get into it because this is really not a political podcast. This is a health and wellness podcast, but there is a lot going on in this country. Chronic stress and elevated cortisol really can contribute to the accumulation of fat in your abdomen, believe it or not. I'm not saying there's a direct line to causing belly fat, but managing stress absolutely matters in terms of keeping your belly fat to a minimum. So you see how I did that? It's not necessarily a 1 + 1 = 2 situation, but they are connected. Okay, I'm going to tell you one more story time for today. I'm going to tell you about my friend I'm going to call Janet. I love Janet. Janet, at 58, she felt extremely, extremely frustrated. Like she listens to my podcast. She's like, I'm trying different things, but she's frustrated. She feels like over time her waist has expanded. But she knows over time her waist has expanded. Her clothes have gotten bigger over time as she's gotten older. Her energy level is lower. And she thought that she needed a super strict diet. Like in her head, she thought she needed to just like restrict everything. But instead, we had an initial conversation. We sat and talked for quite a while. And we focused on eating. She wasn't eating enough protein. She wasn't strength training at any level of seriousness. She would pick up a dumbbell here and there, a light dumbbell. It just wasn't serious. And she just wasn't doing the basics. She wasn't walking after meals. She wasn't sleeping properly. So, of course, I told her all the things that I tell you guys, do the basics. And over time, I'm talking about 3 to 6 months worth of being consistent, she lost fat, she started to gain strength, and she reduced inches off of her waist, which is critical. It's real. And the biggest surprise was she never followed a crash diet. She simply became more consistent with the basics. So here's what I want you guys to all remember. Visceral fat is important to manage. It is. But do not obsess over it because that's going to stress you out. But it's important to know where you are, what your levels are. So focus on the habits that improve body composition. That's really how you torch visceral fat. You got to build muscle. You got to eat the necessary amount of protein on a daily basis. Walk regularly after meals, as many times as you can. Doesn't have to be every single day, every single meal, but make that a habit. You got to care about your sleep. And that's a hard one for me because I love to scroll at night and watch Netflix and all kind of stuff, and YouTube and everything else. But I have to cut it off because you got to get your sleep. And you have to stay consistent with all of it. That's probably the hardest part for the rest of your life. So no, you don't have to be perfect because none of us are, but you have to embrace repetition and the mundane nature of all of it. Sorry to say. Build a routine and keep it simple. It does not have to be fancy. It does not have to be complicated. So the women who succeed long-term are the women who are not trying to chase shortcuts. They're the women who are showing up. They're the women who are doing the work, even when they don't want to. And sometimes it just sucks. It really does. But it is what it is, lovelies. It is what it is. You got to embrace it. It's a tough pill to swallow, but guess what? We're all tougher, so we can do it. So I want to thank you guys for spending part of your day with me here on the Get Lean and Live with Lindy podcast. And if this episode helped you understand visceral fat a little bit better, please share it with a friend who's tired of all the confusing health advice and is ready for something sustainable. So until next time, let's keep it real, keep it consistent, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. Bye.
Boom! I just earned a $600 bonus with an Old National Bank checking account.
You got this.
I do?
Earn up to a $600 bonus when you open an eligible checking account and complete qualifying activities. Old National Bank. Just another reason to get old.
Can you say bonus?
Were you counting on a personal care assistant or autism provider who is no longer able to provide services for your child this summer? Don't panic. The Minnesota Department of Human Services just finished an urgent statewide effort to make sure providers of high-risk Medicaid services fully comply with state requirements to provide quality care. The department recently completed a top-to-bottom compliance review of almost 5,600 providers of high-risk services, including personal care assistance and autism programs. If your child's provider was disenrolled, it is time to be proactive. Let me ask you a question. Does your child have a case manager? They usually can help you find a new provider. If your child does not have one, the department will be reaching out to you directly to make sure you know how to find someone new. Understand what's happening and how to get help at mn.gov/DHS/find-care.
Hi. It's easy to just make an ad that tells you to quit smoking. See?
Action!
Easy as that!
Sure is! Yeah!
But let's be real. Quitting is hard. It's messy, frustrating, but every struggle is actually a victory. At Quit Partner, you get free tools from people who get it. We're not going to tell you it's easy, just that when you're ready, you've got a partner to help you get it done.